great that now we had the chance to have the visit of nothing more, nothing less than Sunny around here.
Hello.
So we're going to speak as well with Sunny. Sunny, let me jump directly to Game of Stakes, which was one of the highlights of the project since it got so much community attention, so many validators joining. What was the most positive outcome out of Game of Stakes?
So I would say Game of Stakes had a couple of really good outcomes. One, it helped get a lot of people excited, it got a lot of validators involved, so we had a really healthy validator set right at the start of the Cosmos Hub. It helped all these validators become much more secure, practice their security, their operational security, and it helped distribute atoms to a bunch of people who didn't have atoms, maybe didn't participate in the fundraiser, but thanks to ICFs gave away some atoms. So really just getting people up to speed, and that was really useful.
Coming up now for Game of Hubs. If you didn't have the chance to participate in Game of Stakes, for sure you can still jump in as a developer. What kind of talent is needed? What's the expectations for Game of Hubs? What kind of people would you rather have joining on the next few weeks? I guess it's coming up in September, if I'm not so sure.
So I'm actually I don't know anything about the timelines, but we definitely want more validators again, but also this time a lot more sort of developers trying things out, trying things using IBC to implement new higher level protocols. And like I said, I'm not too clear yet on the exact design of the game because we're still working on that, but it's definitely going to involve more than just validators this time. Definitely a lot more bounties and stuff for developers kind of stuff.
Sure. Speaking about validators, we always want more validators. Validators are always very important to make the network secure. Did you have any occasions where you had collusion of validators, people trying to attack the system, and how did you handle that? Was something expected, not expected?
I wouldn't say we had any collusion on the real network yet. We definitely had a lot of collusion happening on Game of Stakes, but that was kind of the purpose. We encourage people to do that.
Yes.
On the real network, the only closest thing to an attack I would say we saw was one of the validators was censoring. You only need 2/3 of the validators. You can optionally choose to bring in more. And one of the validators was only taking 2/3 and censoring any extra that he had. And maybe he thought he was being clever, that he was gonna hurt other validators, but really he was actually just hurting himself, because if you don't include more validators, you actually lose some of your own bonus.
Okay, so he lost. He was slashed, or
no, he wasn't slashed, but
stake?
he wasn't getting as much rewards as he could have.
Okay.
And so I guess he just didn't know he didn't fully understand the staking dynamics. So.
I also remember on the past semester, if I'm not wrong, there was an upgrade in the system that a specific, not a bug, but a feature was found, and then people reported that to Cosmos team. Cosmos team did an amazing job to work it very quickly, pass the message, and also be available online while that specific block was coming up, so the community could calm down and then actually see. How would you describe that issue, and was it a big deal for Cosmos?
It was an issue in the staking mechanism that how I would define it is, in theory, it's a pretty decent bug. It basically made it so you don't have to wait the unbonding period, and you can move your tokens out. In theory, from a proof of stake economic perspective, it was a kind of a big deal. But I think for all practical purposes, it actually isn't that big of a deal.
Was it a no-brainer, non-event?
It was sort of a. I would say we kind of overhyped the bug because, on purpose though, because it was practice for what to do in a real bug, a much more dire bug. So by kind of hyping up the oh my god, we need a hard fork in the next 24 hours. I don't think it was that important to hard fork in 24 hours this time, but it was through practice for the next time when we really have to hard fork in 24 hours.
No, seriously, kudos for all the team. The way the information was handled, the whole transparency, availability of everybody from the technical team. So even though it was not a big deal, it was nice to have all the community together following up on and giving the proper attention. Yes. So what's coming up for the next, you would say, 3-4 months? What kind of talents do you need? What's necessary for the Cosmos hubs to be even stronger and have more validators?
Yeah, so I mean, we're working on a lot of different things. Well, obviously, the biggest one is IBC, and so we have Chris and June and others on the team working on that. I think the next thing is for people to start thinking of what kind of stuff they want to build on top of IBC.
Yeah.
So currently, a lot of people are building applications on Cosmos, but they're thinking of like what are the different kind of things. Like, you know, token transfers is the most simplest thing we could do, but what are the next steps after that? Do we want NFTs? Do we want smart contract calls across chains? What are the stuff on top of that? And then also on the DeFi, I think that like I wrote a spec for how to do staking derivatives, and once we have these staking derivatives, I think these derivatives are very useful collateral for all sorts of different things. So using them in CDPs, for insurance markets.
You mean like financial derivatives? If I want to do like a future of two currencies together and do that in a decentralized fashion, that's the time to start.
Yeah, I think that would be a great thing to start now. And the staking derivative is what it is when I stake my atoms,
yes.
I'll get another token that is a claim to those tokens. So that way, if those tokens get slashed, then these tokens I'm holding become worthless. But at least now I have this token, and I can like send that token to you, or I can put it in a
something
CDP.
Useful with it while
it's also being used for staking.
That's quite nice. So it's kind of almost like a mirror of, so you have a notion of tokens that are staking, doing part of the security of the Cosmos network, but you can also actually do something with that.
Yeah.
So do you have a name of the other token, like the mirror token? Will it be like Atom 2 or something?
We don't have a name for it. I just call them staking derivatives right now.
Okay.
We'll figure out a good name.
No, it's important, like, because all those names can get very complicated. So when people think about derivatives, it's nothing more than like simplification of what is an atom and then what can be done with it. Sunny, thank you so much. It's super nice to have you guys here. Also, like you are together with Zaki, with Jaquan, such a strong team. Where are you guys based? It's all over the world, or basically in the Valley?
Yeah, so I'd say the team is sort of 1/3 in San Francisco, 1/3 in Berlin, and then 1/3 kind of all over the place.
Awesome. If you had to give a message to the developers in Latin America, people that never downloaded Cosmos yet, never played with the SDKs, how should they get started? Where should they go in the GitHub repository? What kind of issues do you think they're going to be nice to contribute?
I would say the place to start is if you look up the Cosmos SDK name service tutorial. That is probably the easiest tutorial to follow. We basically make Namecoin, kind of, and so that if you go through that tutorial, I think you'll become like, you know, you'll understand the SDK, and then from that, then you can start kind of contributing and discussing with other SDK developers. We have like bi-weekly, everyone who's building SDK applications, they kind of get on a call together and discuss. But yeah, starting with that tutorial is probably the best place to start.
Awesome. Well, one last thing. I know, like, I've been asking so many questions. I'm a big fan of the project, and I see that those guys have a serious purpose in this blockchain space. IBC is coming up. It's not something from today. It's been on the pipeline since, I guess, day one.
Yeah.
But how would you describe fast finality, which is the thing that makes the whole protocol? It was one of the most important decisions in designing the architecture of the protocol. What is fast finality, why it matters, why it's important?
Yeah, so fast finality is, you know, in most blockchains today, Bitcoin or Ethereum, there's like, you don't know when it's, you know, you have these confirmations and you have to wait like 60 minutes before you know that your thing is secure. In fast finality, blocks in Tendermint take like 3 to 5 seconds. And then once your transaction is there in a block, it's done. It's finalized. And unlike Bitcoin, you don't have to worry about, oh, maybe there's a reorg.
After an hour is pretty much decided, right?
Yeah.
In Cosmos, that doesn't happen in an hour. It can happen in seconds.
Yeah. And this is just so important for the user experience.
But what was the trade-off to have fast finality? Did you have to compromise on security, on scalability? What was like on the downside to have that as an idea?
So anything that uses fast finality, it has to have a known set of validators for the current block. So in proof of work, at any given moment, on Bitcoin, you don't know who all of the miners are.
Yes.
But in Tendermint, you do have to know who are all the validators right now. You don't have to know who they are, they could be anonymous, but you have to know their public keys, which is
there's some kind of shake hands before they join the validator set.
They could, well, yeah, basically the current validator set has to accept their transaction that they want to join.
I see. And then let's say they all get together and they start colluding. So 1/3 of them starts, okay, we already know each other, even though pseudonyms and it's all anonymous, but they start colluding. What's the risk?
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a risk, and that's one of the cons of Tendermint, of course. And I think the best way to handle this is that, we want there to be many chains, and so this is why we don't believe in like one blockchain, because, for example, Ethereum would do this as well. They use the same finality issues on Ethereum, but on Ethereum, if you have a collusion, then it's like, oh no, we ruined everything. But if you have many, many blockchains, even if some of them are kind of being censored, it's okay, it's easy for you to at least use other blockchains until the issues on some blockchains can be figured out.
Great. Well, I guess it was a million questions that I had to you guys. There is so much more happening. So Telegram, Discord, there's a lot in the social media. What is your favorite way of communicating with the developers? Where's your favorite chat out of all of the available?
I personally I really like Twitter for the best way to get in contact with me.
Yes.
My DMs are always open, so you can always contact me there. And then for the developers, I would say our Riot chats are the best place to find it. There's a Cosmos SDK development group, and so probably on there.
Awesome. Sunny, thank you so much. Pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you.
Let me quickly say hello to the girls from Cosmos in Germany. So I'm here with Michelle and our mascot. Yeah. So how's the hackathon going? How's the interest for Cosmos so far? How's the project developing?
It's been good. I think this is our first year being part of EthBerlin. So it's seeing the teams, learning about what people are building, and we actually kind of are sponsoring more like library peer-to-peer. So this is our focus, and we'll probably come back again next year with a bigger presence, but it's our first year coming.
Michelle, as someone that's so familiar with the project, do you think you could introduce me to one of the guys that is developing the SDKs?
Yeah. Let's speak of the devil.
Yeah, let's talk.
We have Alessio, who's heading up now, currently our head of EMEA partnerships, but was a big contributor and lead on the launch of the Cosmos SDK, which happened back in March, and so now he's moving into the EMEA partnerships and can also explain about the SDK, why it's easy to use, and then kind of how we're working with the Ethereum kind of community as well. So
Brilliant.
I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, Alessio? Pleasure to have you here.
Hi, pleasure is all mine.
This is Alessio, so we're gonna start, he's gonna start talking about a little bit about his background and all that.
My name is Alessio and I joined the Tendermint team on official capacity last year, pretty much at the same time of this year, so August last year. But I met Jay for the first time and back in 2016, and I did some working for Tendermint when the SDK was not even a thing back in the day, and even ABCI had a different name back in the day. It was a Tendermint Socket Protocol. And so after some contribution, community contribution, I joined the team last year. I left my post at Bank of America Merrill Lynch, and because I wanted to contribute to the growth of the ecosystem. And I was sold into Jay's vision of the Cosmos and building the Internet of the blockchains. So I joined the SDK team with a mission to deliver the hub.
So I see there's many layers, at least in the SDK. The package is quite, there's a lot that people can interact with and play with. I would say start with cosmos.network / developers, and then from there, where can they go?
Oh yes, as you said, the cosmos.network / developers is the main point of sources for information and documentation for developers to build application on the Cosmos SDK. As I said to you before, I was part of the SDK team till a few weeks ago. Then I left the SDK team and I moved on working on partnerships. And one of the last things I worked upon was what we call the LTS program, which is the long-term support developer program. It's basically, we gathered some feedback from developers during especially our last hackathon that it took place in our office, Full Node. And one of the most prominent pain points the developers were reporting about was the difficulty, the struggle to catch up with all the changes we were carrying out in the SDK.
Yeah.
They were sort of asking us to provide some sort of guarantee of stability if that was possible. The thing is, it's quite impossible to actually provide this sort of backward compatibility now, but rather than, because the ecosystem is growing, so new use cases get discovered on a daily basis, there are many projects we're working on, and so we thought that we needed to make developers and keep them happy, because they are among the most important stakeholders in our ecosystem. And so we came up with this idea of the LTS program, long-term support program. Basically, we want to give developers these guarantees and release and tag some of our releases with the LTS keyword, which comes with the guarantee that we're going to backport the security patches back to a certain period of time. And we also want to provide developers with what we call like porting guides or migration guides. So for instance, if you base your application on top of a specific version of the SDK, and which is marked as LTS, and at some point in the future we release another version of the SDK marked as LTS, we will provide a documentation, a specific migration guide from one version to another, in order to make developers' lives easier, in order to upgrade and benefit from all the upgrades and all the new features that new releases always come with.
Yeah. Let me ask you something regarding the developer interest. Where do you see people getting like more attention to the project? Is it on the security part? Is it on the scalability solution? Is it on becoming a validator? What are the favorite things that the
interests that come from all directions? Of course, community, the whole community is interested in many different areas of development, so joining the validation business, becoming validators, and they want to build applications. They see Cosmos as a solution for scalability problems, and of course we will deliver IBC in a few months' time, which will wire all the bits together and will allow us to connect so many different blockchains with standalone sovereign governance and talk to each other and exchange messages.